Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, it's Earth Day. So Bernie and AOC decide to celebrate it by flying on a private jet. But before we get to any of that, time for your daily dose of adrenaline.
You want me to stick this into my heart? Are you f***ing nuts?
At 1:36 a.m. last night, the Democrats voted to tax everything they possibly could. Would you like a list of all the taxes they are rolling out? You remember yesterday, I was talking about House Bill 2049, and we were all ecstatic over the news that Democrats had said they weren't pursuing these massive increases in property taxes. What did they do? Slip open the back door through a procedural loophole. They jacked up your property taxes. Why? To support failing schools. 2/3 of kids in this state are not at grade level for math or reading/writing. Those are the only subjects they measure that way, according to the National Report Card. They've thrown billions, if not trillions of dollars at the problem, and it has only gotten worse because they are not dealing with the systemic problems in the school system. So what are they going to do now? Create more problems. What issues have they not dealt with? Let's start with this one. During COVID, they kept kids out of schools in Washington here for 2 years in the public schools. Almost 2 years. Remember all that nonsense with not just shutting down the schools, but then, oh my God, we had a breakout case. Oh my God, send everybody home. Back to Zoom again. They never did anything to recover from that. So because you delayed all these kids learning, they're all behind. And rather than supplementing that with additional coursework or extending the school day by an hour for a year or 2 years or whatever the case may be, because teachers' unions would never go for that, what'd they do instead? Here comes DEI. Let's put it into everything. In fact, all the stuff it wasn't in, let's double down on it infinitely more. More and more and more and more. Because we know that every school that implements DEI gets more successful, right? Oh, no, wait, not a single school that implements DEI gets more successful. On top of that, they got all this money for COVID. That was in theory supposed to go for air conditioners or supplemental learning or Zoom education or whatever it was. And instead, they spent it on stupidity like DEI. And because of that, it didn't go where it was needed. And in addition to that, what they do, they kept spending and spending and spending on things that didn't make the education any better. And they created these permanent programs that now need to be funded. On top of that, they don't hire who's qualified for the job. They hire who's the best activist. How many teachers have we covered that should have no business being near kids? Forget if I disagree with them politically. But what about ones with records that are in the classroom? And by that, I mean criminal records, not the kind you play on a turntable. So they have criminal records. They're in the classroom. They're predators. They're in the classroom. We're going to give you a story later today about another predator that was found in another classroom here in Washington. You think the solution is throwing more money at it? Well, let's see. If you raise people's property taxes, what other problems are you going to create with that? You are going to price people out of their homes. But you know why they did it? So they could say, it's for the children. The children. And those evil Republicans, they're the ones who want to take it all away from you. It's insane. It's absolutely insane. The definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So they're going to say the Republicans are all evil and bad because they want to stop the funding for the children. The reason these schools are in such dire financial straits is their own financial mismanagement. Couple that together with the insane salaries they are paying not just the teachers, but the superintendents who are making triple, 4 times what I'm making, which is beyond insane. These guys get paid so much money, it's criminal. So you can only imagine what the assistant principal, the vice principal, I wonder what the janitor gets in that school. I wonder if his mops are made out of gold. The amount of money they are blowing, the amount of money they are wasting. I drove past Rainier Beach High School today, and I noticed that Rainier Beach High School in South Seattle has been completely redone. They built a whole new structure, built a whole new building. Now, sometimes it is cheaper. It is cheaper to build a new building than renovate an existing one, and Rainier Beach High School has been there for some time, and they had some other problems, including plumbing issues, and by that I mean kids were drinking pretty bad water over at that place. So there were some issues to be addressed. But the amount of money they have blown on these schools, where they are not actually spending anything on the education, they're not spending any money keeping kids safe. We know that safety has continued to be a huge, huge issue at these schools. The amount of money they are blowing, no amount of money will ever be good enough for them. So that's House Bill 2049. And if you want to say, don't vote for this, legislator, the House already voted on this stupidity. Now they're in reconciliation with the Senate. You want to call the Washington legislature and say no to this stupidity? The number is 1-800-562-6000. And say no to the property tax increase. The next one is House Bill 2081, which is going to tax the companies, the employers in our state, over $5 billion over the next 4 years. This is the tax which Microsoft, Amazon, Boeing, even the Seattle Mariners said, you know what? If you do this, we are out of here. We cannot afford this. And Amazon has done this once before. They said to Seattle, if you put this tax on us, we will go to Bellevue. And that is exactly what they did. I remember in, 2018. 2018, I was down in Lake Union a lot. And it was like being in Manhattan in the middle of the day. There were so many little ants, so many people down there working. They're not there anymore. Yeah, Amazon had to go back to work, but how many people really work in this area anymore? People are trying to figure out why traffic came back everywhere except for downtown Seattle. That's why. Because they're working in Bellevue. They're working in other places. Plus, there's headquarters all over the country. You don't need to live in this area to work for Amazon anymore. Now, you may think to yourself, oh, the Seattle Mariners aren't going anywhere. Do you remember a team we used to have called the Sonics? Howard Schultz got rid of them, and you may have forgotten something. They're building a baseball stadium in Portland, Oregon. How embarrassing would it be if we lost our baseball team because Oregon is more business-friendly than us? You think they won't leave? The Mariners are all about their profits. Otherwise, we'd have a good baseball team. Of course they would leave. Of course they would leave. They don't care about the stadium. Didn't we pay for that also? Yeah. Amazon, they'll pick up and go. They don't need to be here anymore. Jeff Bezos already did. Microsoft, you think just because they have a campus, they can't go anywhere? Of course they can. Boeing, they've already gone other places. Their offices are in Chicago. They have other assembly lines on the East Coast. You think that once a plane shuts down, they won't build the next line somewhere else and the next line somewhere else and the next line somewhere else until no more Boeing. No more of that. It could very easily happen. All of these companies could be gone, and you will have killed the golden geese. They want to tax your beer. They want to tax your wine. They want to tax your hunting. They want to tax your fishing. They want to tax your gas. They want to tax everything that moves or isn't even sentient in this state. Why? Because Democrats have a spending problem. We don't have a budget gap problem. At most, this budget gap is $7 billion. We've done the math many, many times. Nonpartisan agencies have done the math. At most, it's $7 billion. They want the $15 billion, now $16 billion, because they want to cover the spending over the next 2 years. And they want you to pay for it. Compare a state like ours to Florida. Florida also has record revenues, record money in its coffers, but they know how to spend it efficiently. So they are actually saying, you know, can we get rid of this whole property tax thing? Other places are considering the exact same thing. Yet around here, when they talk about affordability, they don't actually mean it. They mean affordability for the homeless person that they're going to, or the drug addict, or the person with mental health issues, that they're going to give a homeless high-rise over Green Lake. They're going to give them a free apartment, free hotel room, no questions asked. You can go do your drugs there. You can bring your weapons there. Oh, you have a felony record? Come on in. Oh, you're an illegal alien with a felony record? You get the VIP suite. You get the penthouse suite. More than happy to give that to you. This is how insane our state has become. Oh, and by the way, you know the other thing they snuck in the back door? They resurrected the wealth tax. You know the thing that Bob Ferguson said he would never sign? What kind of backroom deals are being made that all of a sudden now they're bringing it back? It may not even be constitutional, and they're bringing it back. Well, you think Bill Gates is going to stay? Bezos already left. How many of these other guys are going to get out of here, as Mike says, with the quickness? We have one hope, and I can't believe I am saying this. It is making me nauseous. It is making me sick to my stomach. Our one hope is Bob Ferguson.
Yeah, it's not my name.
All right, Turd Ferguson.
He is our only hope. Why? Because he can veto this stuff, and he could say, I'm not signing this legislation, as he's done twice before. Now, the problem is, what was Bob doing this morning?
Senate Bill 5065 prevents large exotic animals like elephants and big cats from being used in traveling circus acts. Transporting these animals to perform stresses them, exposes them to the elements, and isolates them for long periods. This is important protection for these beautiful animals, and it's an honor to sign it into law.
Are there any traveling circus acts anymore? Does Barnum Bailey Ringling Brothers Circus even exist anymore? I don't think they've even come to Seattle or Tacoma in the time since I've lived here. Last time I saw them, I was 10 years old at Madison Square Garden when they had the elephants march down 34th Street. Is this our highest priority? Bob Ferguson has a real issue on his hands. A real issue on his hands. What is that? He wants higher office. But he's not going to get higher office if he signs the largest tax increase in history. He proposed $4 billion in budget cuts. I felt it wasn't enough. I felt you could have done more. Washington Doge has found close to $2 billion. That's 6. You're almost at 7. Do you realize how much more money could be cut out of this wasteful spending budget? We've exposed the waste in this budget. We could fix this. We could solve this if Bob Ferguson holds the line. But I'm worried that what he's going to do is say, well, you know, we cut what we could cut, and unfortunately, everybody has to feel the pain, so we're going to kick in a little bit here. And I made cuts. I tried, but the kids, but Donald Trump, but the federal government. That's what he's going to say. Just watch. They're playing good cop, bad cop, or good Democrat, bad Democrat. That's what they're doing. And you are the one stuck in the middle. Because when all those millionaires and billionaires leave town, and all those businesses leave town, 1, a lot of you won't have jobs anymore. But 2, you won't have them to pay the taxes anymore. So who are they going to come after? You. What's my proof of that? They're taxing beer. They're taxing wine. They're taxing hunting. They're taxing gas. They're taxing your property taxes. They're raising them as high as they can. They're going to put taxes upon taxes upon taxes upon taxes. That is what is going to happen. You know the saddest thing? Most people have no idea. Most people have no idea this is about to hit them like a Mack truck. There's one thing you can do, aside from listen to my show 3 hours a day. There's one thing you can do if you are feeling this helpless. You call Bob Ferguson's office, and you say, do not sign any of these taxes. You be nice to the person on the other end of the phone. They just work for Bob. They are not Bob. You give them a call. You melt the phone lines. 360-902-4111. 4111. That's 360-902-4111. You need to melt the phone lines, and maybe we have a chance of him realizing how bad this is going to be for him. And if you're a Democrat, you need to do the same thing. This is going to affect every single one of us. Bob Ferguson is literally about to become the meme with the guy who's sweating trying to decide which button to push. Does he push the button to have the largest tax increase in Washington history, or does he push the button to get higher office one day because he can't have both? And you got to make sure he knows that. 360-902-4111. That's 360-902-4111. And say no to all these insane taxes. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from John in Lakewood. John, what's up, man?
Hey, how you doing, Ari? Yeah, listen, I was listening to you talking about these taxes they want to impose. I mean, all the taxes, but particularly the head tax, that's a substitute income tax, and talking about what would it be like if the Mariners left and went to the Portland and became the Portland,
Timberwolves. I don't know. Yeah, who knows what they'll call them. Yeah.
I'm just saying, you know what? I'd like to see every major league sports team leave this town and degrade Seattle's status. In fact, I don't even want a new Sonics team here. And the reason why is because the Portland Trailblazers have reached out to me after I wrote them a letter about their broadcast of all of their games over the air. You don't have to pay for a Portland Trailblazers game if you live in the Northwest. That's reaching out to their fans. They want us. I don't care about the Sonics anymore. They can go. In fact, I'd like to tell Adam Silver, don't bring them here if you know what's good for you.
Well, we kind of, John, we kind of don't want them here just because of all the clickbait articles we've been seeing about them. I'm so tired of the clickbait articles. Me and Mike are so fed up with them. That's pissing us off at this point.
Well, I don't pay attention to any of that clickbait stuff. I'm just interested in the sports and the game only. I try to ignore all that nonsense and all that other stuff that they're doing. But I just don't want them here because I don't want the stature that a professional sports team brings to a city for Seattle, because Seattle is not worthy of it, in my opinion. They're not worthy of that.
And I'll tell you what, when we get all these highline events, these big ticket events, these marquee events, the Major League Baseball game for the All-Star game, when we get Taylor Swift, when we get the World Cup, I said, what did we do to deserve it? You're going to clean up the city for one weekend, then we're left with the problems. John, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Matt, text of the day again. He's got this one. Here we go. If the bill is passed at 1:30, you know it's for the dirty. He's 100% right. Why else would you pass it at 1:30 in the morning? So that nobody's there to cover it. Even me, who's up ridiculous hours. I didn't see this till I woke up at 7 a.m. today. We go back to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line, take a call from my good friend Alma. Alma, my darling, it has been far too long. How are you, my sweetheart?
Far too long. I'm fine. How are you, my sweetheart?
Oh, I'm just peachy. The sun is shining. It's a beautiful day. I'm happy, aside from not having any money anymore after the Democrats take all of it.
After the Republican, brother Trump, giving it all to the rich. That's Robin Hood in the White House.
Wait a second. Alma. Donald Trump is not taking any of my money right now. In fact, he's about to pass a massive tax credit. So we can blame him for a lot of things. We can't blame him for that.
But I know a lot of people lost a lot of money in the process of this big old break he's going to give us. But who I'm calling about is your friend Ron DeSantis.
What'd he do now?
Work with me.
What'd he do?
$10 million and funneled it to his wife.
What?
Oh, my God.
Alma, I seriously have no idea what we're even talking about today. I haven't seen that story.
Well, I want you to Google it, because that's what I'm talking about, Ron DeSantis. And he took money from the taxpayers.
I'll check it out. Alma, for you, please. I will check it out. I have not seen that story yet. I've been too busy catching up on all this insanity out of the legislature. Let me ask you, Alma, do you want higher property taxes?
No, I don't. I don't have a home. I'm too old. I had to sell my home.
Oh, I'm sorry.
Nobody wants higher property taxes. No, but sometimes you have to bite the bullet and get what you get.
Well, yeah, but here's the thing. If it's higher property taxes, that means higher rent for you, Alma.
I know. Maybe I'll be in a nursing home, huh?
Well, that's not
No,
good
I'm
either.
kidding.
They got to
kidding.
pay more fees also. And then, Alma, they're going to say, wait, when you say to them, I need a phone so I can call Talk Radio 570 KVI and talk to Ari Hoffman, they're going to say, you're not allowed to talk to him. We don't want that, Alma.
I got my own phone. Don't play with me. Don't play. I'm going to talk to Ari every time I get a chance. As a matter of fact, I missed you.
Well, so good to talk to you, Alma. I appreciate the call, as always. Don't be a stranger. Make sure you call more often. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, that's not the only thing the Democrats are taxing. Yes, they're going after Tesla. The same day the lunatic activists are going after the dealership. We'll tell you what's going on in Seattle when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. You know when you wake up in the morning just fine, and then thing after thing after thing sends you off the rails on a given day? So this morning I wake up perfectly fine, and I want to do a deposit on my mobile device. Well, unfortunately, the app wasn't working right, which means I got to drive all the way out to Burien from Seward Park to the closest bank branch to put a deposit in. I'm already in a bad mood. As I'm driving, I get a little happier because I love driving my Dodge Charger, especially because I just had it serviced over at my friends at Renton Chrysler Dodge Jeep Ram, and they just gave me a new set of tires, which was a good thing because the amount of speed bumps they have put along my route is crazy. And I'm watching cars in front of me. Every single person is doing the same thing. Everybody is swerving into the other lane around the speed bumps or trying to cut the corner near the curve on the speed bumps or trying to straddle the speed bump with their car. Nobody's slowing down. Nobody's slowing down. They're going the exact same speed right over those suckers. As much as they did before. Now they're just swerving into the opposite lane to get around them. They have put these things on main drags, not side streets. Also, the amount of other things they've done in my neighborhood. Cut it down to 1 lane from 2 lanes, road diets, bike lanes, you name it. The amount of time it takes me to get where I need to go has doubled, if not tripled in some cases, and I drive pretty quickly. Mike knows. I'm a terror on wheels. So, here's the thing, my friends. If it takes me that long to get these places, what's it doing to everybody else? And as long as you are driving that vehicle, like I do, I am burning more gas miles, which means I am also pumping more stuff into the atmosphere. This mess has been created by the Seattle Department of Transportation. So when I see this headline, I scoff. And I don't use the word scoff very often, but that's what I do. I just go pfft when I see this headline from the Como News. Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell signs Earth Day executive order to develop new climate action policy. Wow. You're really doing a bang-up job because all these things were instituted while he was mayor. He could have stopped this nonsense anytime. There was a brief moment where I had faith in Seattle Mayor Bruce Harrell that maybe he wasn't going to do exactly what I knew he was going to do. And it was the day he asked Sam Zimbabwe, whose last name is really like Goldberg or something, but he identifies as African. I don't know what, but his last name is not Zimbabwe. And he asked Sam Zimbabwe for his resignation as the head of SDOT. And then he puts in this other guy, Spots. What's Spots' big claim to fame? I was so excited when he got rid of Zimbabwe. I'm like, yes, the reign of terror is over. He puts in Spots, a guy who never owned a car, a guy who doesn't own a car, who's talking about, look how great this bike lane is. Yay! That's all he cares about. Do you realize how bad for the environment all the stuff you guys have done is? How often do you see people in those bike lanes? Yes, I know. This time of year, you might see them a little bit more frequently, but 8 months out of the year, you don't. And if the people in Seattle actually cared about the environment, you know what they would deal with? The homeless encampments. Because I don't think all the propane they're using, you guys told me natural gas is bad. Oh my God, wait a second. If they ban natural gas, Mike, then you know what that means? No more homeless encampments. Wait, you guys have turned me around on this one. I've been oh wait, no, they'll just bring in electric for them, right? They'll start installing outlets and such for them. Yeah. But the amount of times those RVs spontaneously combust or the propane tanks explode or the meth cooking that's going on in those encampments, you know, to get rid of one of these encampments effectively, correctly, you don't just need to clean up the garbage and move the people. You need to dig out at least 1 foot to 4 feet of topsoil to get rid of all the junk that's actually in the ground from that thing being there. They don't care about any of that. In fact, Bruce Harrell's plan is push them all into the green areas of the city so people don't see them downtown. That is not a plan, but that's what they're doing. Meanwhile, actually green things, remember they told us all to buy EVs? Well, the lunatics today are planning on protesting the Tesla dealership at Eastlake. Now, a whole bunch of people were arrested for spray painting a Tesla dealership in New York today. Apparently, it's a day of action for Earth Day against Tesla. So let me just make sure I got this right. You're attacking the company, which most liberals are the ones buying their product. Let's remember that for a second. So You're attacking Tesla. On top of that, last night the Washington legislature moved a specific tax, House Bill 2077, to target Tesla. I'm not sure this thing actually survives a court challenge. You can't target one business. But they go after Tesla with this new tax to make the Teslas more expensive. It just shows this whole climate thing was a grift. It was all a grift. It was never about being more eco-friendly. Because you are taxing the number one EV seller, the one that most Americans want, that's an American company, by the way. No, they just want the money. They just don't like Elon Musk. So now they're targeting them with this ridiculous tax. Yet another thing they're doing in the Washington legislature. It's bonkers crazy that this is their plan. Oh, by the way, speaking of Earth Day, AOC and Bernie Sanders, when we come back, my friends, you're not going to believe how they celebrated Earth Day with a private jet. Because, you know, that's really good for the environment. We'll have that story for you, plus a whole lot more when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, it is Earth Day today, my friends, and never forget that Earth Day was invented by a guy who killed and then composted his girlfriend. Don't believe me? Look it up when you're not driving. That's a true fact. We actually read the entire story on air, my first year on air. But you know how liberals celebrate Earth Day? This is amazing. You know how socialists celebrate Earth Day? Wasn't AOC the one who called for a Green New Deal? Wasn't that her thing? She wanted the Green New Deal, and Washington was the only state dumb enough to actually do it. Oh, wait, California did too. And Oregon did some of it too. And a lot of other blue states did some of it also. But we went all in on the Green New scam. That's what we did here. Do you know what AOC did for Earth Day today? Her and Bernie Sanders are off for another trip for their Stop the Oligarchy tour on a private jet. So she's flying around on a private jet with Bernie Sanders. Oh, at least she carpooled. There's two of them on that plane. Could have flown commercial, but no. They're on the private jet to stop the oligarchy. Do you have any idea the carbon emissions they have created this trip alone? I'm sure somebody will have the math on that by the end of the day, but there is video footage of the two of them getting off that plane today. And meanwhile, that doesn't seem to matter to leftist voters. AOC is soaring in a new poll against Chuck Schumer. Now, Chuck Schumer hasn't been doing well in his home state of New York ever since he caved to Donald Trump, because the Democrats say you're supposed to be the guy who's stopping Donald Trump, and you're not doing a good job of it. There was a video clip that went viral last night / this morning from the 8th season of The Apprentice. I didn't watch The Apprentice. I watched bits and pieces of the first season. I've discussed some of the episodes I've seen on the show when applicable. But I definitely didn't know there were even 8 seasons of that show. Well, why is this one specific clip going viral? Because in this one of the shticks of The Apprentice was they bring in politicians, they bring in business leaders. I remember in the first season they met with Lucasfilm. They were marketing Attack of the Clones, and you could tell which people who were in this competition had never seen Star Wars before when they met with Lucasfilm. It was pretty embarrassing. So they bring in Chuck Schumer for one of these episodes as the guy that all the apprentices get to meet with. He sounded a lot different then than he sounds today.
I was born in Brooklyn, the same place where Donald Trump's family comes from. His father and my grandfather were builders together in Brooklyn. Yeah. Even when he was much younger, you knew that he was going to go places. So it's
Senator Schumer and Mr. Trump are good friends. They both have a passion for life, and you get that immediately talking to him, that he actually cares about what he does.
Wow. They all used to like him a lot, didn't they? Sounds very different. But when I saw these poll numbers on Chuck Schumer and this news about AOC gaining on him in the polls if she decides to run for Senate, I couldn't help but wonder, was this clip actually spread by somebody on the left? Was this clip found by somebody on the left so that the right would pick it up and run with it? According to Fox News, Schumer's favorable rating stands at 39% favorable and 49% unfavorable among New York state voters in a new poll which was conducted April 14th through 16th. It's the worst showing by Schumer in 20 years that Siena College has been conducting polls in New York State. 10 points underwater. This is super bad, by the way. But it indicates that AOC is starting to climb. So she stands at 47% favorable, 33% unfavorable. That's a jump from 38 to 39% the first time people asked about her. According to the poll, 64% of Democrats view AOC in a favorable light more than Schumer or Kathy Hochul. 6 in 10 Republicans questioned in the poll view AOC in a negative way, with independents evenly divided. That is how somebody like AOC becomes a New York senator. Don't think they'll do it. They've done dumb things before. They elected Kathy Hochul. They keep electing Chuck Schumer. They elected Hillary Clinton in New York. I know the dumb people they elected. Right now, Cuomo is leading in the polls for mayor of New York, even though he killed a whole bunch of the residents. You know what this reminds me of? There was a Saturday Night Live skit when Independence Day came out. and Bill Pullman was hosting Saturday Night Live, and he's playing the President Whitmore character as if he's debating Bob Dole in the presidential election. So, what's his face? Norm Macdonald comes out as Bob Dole. And you got Bill Pullman playing President Whitmore. And I remember Bill Pullman starts saying, well, the average American really wants Norm Macdonald, as Bob Dole goes, the average American is dead, incinerated by the alien heat ray. Speaking of dead people, by the way. So Elizabeth Warren was on some podcast yesterday, and she's being asked about Joe Biden's cognitive ability, why she covered it up, what did she know, when did she know. These pauses I left in there specifically because of how funny they are while she searches for an answer. If only I could show you what her face looked like. Town Hall did a great job clipping this.
Do you regret saying that President Biden had a mental acuity? He had a sharpness to him. You said that up until July of last year.
I said what I believe to be true.
And you think he was as sharp as you?
I said I had not seen decline. He was sharp. He was on his feet. I saw him. Live event. I had meetings with him a couple of times.
Senator, on his feet is not praise.
Gold. Absolute gold. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Leonard in Shoreline. Leonard, what's going on?
Hey, nothing much. Seeing your last segment, you gave out Todd Ferguson's phone number out in Olympia for his office.
Yeah.
Mind if I help you? How about 360-902-4111? That's for you people who are here in the country illegally and only speak Spanish.
Well, then they're not paying taxes. They're going to call him and say, yeah, tax those people to pay our bills. Don't listen to anything Leonard just said. I thought very funny, though, Leonard. Do appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, 60 Minutes producer resigns, saying that CBS is dictating what kind of content he can or can't do. Is it he wants to be normal and they want him to be woke, or is it the other way around? We'll discuss when we come back. You're listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. CBS News' program 60 Minutes, I mean CBS News itself, hasn't exactly been in my little black book of the right-wing media conspiracy for a very, very long time, if it ever was. Well, now, according to the New York Times, the executive producer of 60 Minutes, Bill Owens, has said that he is resigning over a loss of independence to run the show as I have always run it. Does that mean woke? Does that mean edit the facts? I keep going back to this when I was on 60 Minutes. So you had Anderson Cooper come out here to Seattle to see what was going on with the homeless problem here in Seattle. And what happens? The CBS crew, the 60 Minutes crew, spent 2 days with me. 2 days. I took them to the homeless encampments. We spoke to some people. I gave them all the evidence of my position. They aired 15 seconds. 15 seconds of me talking about finding needles in the dugout. That was after Anderson Cooper spent an hour and a half in my living room. An hour and a half. By the way, very nice guy. Very sweet guy. But at the same time, the way they clipped this thing, it was clear their goal was to try and say, it's not a drug issue. It's a housing affordability issue. And then they interview some parents who are drug addicts. Then they say, oh, it's not an alcohol issue. It's a housing affordability issue. Then they interview a guy who's drinking on the job. It was person after person after person in this interview who had some kind of issue. They couldn't even cut around that. Well, Owen says in a staff memo obtained by the New York Times on Tuesday that over the past few months it has become clear that I would not be allowed to run the show as I have always run it, to make independent decisions based on what was right for 60 Minutes, right for the audience. Wasn't he the executive producer when that whole thing with Kamala Harris happened? That wasn't that long ago. We'll come back to that. He says, so having defended the show and what we stand for from every angle, over time with everything I could, I am stepping aside so the show can move forward. I'm starting to wonder if they came down on him like a ton of bricks and said, we get editorial control because of what you did with the Kamala Harris interview, or if it's something else, or if they're saying, hey, resign or we're firing you. I have many questions. He pledged that 60 Minutes will continue to cover the new administration, and they will report on future administrations. The show is too important to the country. It has to continue, just not with me as the executive producer. Now, let's frame this the right way. His departure comes after President Donald Trump sued CBS for $10 billion in what he has called a deceptively edited interview with former Vice President Kamala Harris, and amid pressure from CBS News parent company Paramount. Now, Shari Redstone, Paramount's controlling shareholder, has expressed a desire to reach a settlement in the Trump case, as reportedly aiming to get the Trump administration approval for a sale of her company to Skydance. Owens has said he would not apologize as part of any potential settlement. So do you know what this really means? They are facing a mega lawsuit, $10 billion. And by the way, Trump has them dead to rights. They purposely edited that video so Kamala Harris would look better. And who are the ones who outed them? Themselves. They had the commercial where she came off as a buffoon, but that wasn't the footage that aired.
Congratulations, you played yourself.
Exactly right. They outed themselves. They played themselves by airing that promotion, trying to hook you in. Now, I don't know, maybe one guy does the promotion and one guy does the show and they don't talk to each other. But eagle-eyed people notice that right away because, Mike, you remember this. We had the clip first. We had the commercial first. We played it to death. And then when we actually watched the 60 Minutes, wait, that's not what happened. We saw the rambling Kamala Harris. Now, we know that news shows edit things, but to edit out the thing you left in there originally to make her sound smarter? Not very smart, my friends. Pretty dumb. So I'm kind of curious if this guy was asked to resign or else, or just didn't want to yield the editorial control to somebody else. When we come back, my friends, your chance to be part of the golden age of America and win $2,025 plus a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, and a Washington middle school wrestling coach has been charged with doing pretty horrible things to kids. We'll tell you crazy crime stories going on in our area when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless. Streaming live at KVI.com and on the KVI app. If you want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves, call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up this hour, the Supreme Court of the United States exposes how deep DEI is in your kid's classroom. But before we get to any of that, my friends, it is time for KVI's Golden Age of America giveaway. That's right, my friends. It is upon us because it's your chance to win $2,025 and a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card.
The golden age of America, I call it. It's begun.
Indeed it has. So all you have to do is text the word I'm going to give you. Just the word. Not your number. Not your name. Not your address. No other pieces of information. No, hi, Ari, here's today's word. Don't do that. I get a lot of that for some reason when I'm specifically telling you not to do that. And don't do it twice, by the way. Just the word. So text the word RISE. That's R-I-S-E to 206-421-5757. As in, rise up and call the Washington legislator and stop them from passing these crazy taxes. So RISE, as in rise and shine. R-I-S-E. Text it to 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. You have until 5 p.m. to enter. Your next chance at winning comes tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. during the morning ride with Phil Vandervoort. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout delivery order, and more. And also, I want to thank President Trump on Earth Day for spending the time with us to promote the Golden Age of America competition.
Well, and thank you, Ari. You do an incredible job and such an important voice. Thank you very much, Ari.
Oh, such a pleasure having you, sir. Thank you so much. Remember, you have until 5 o'clock. You have until 5 o'clock today to enter that keyword.
And I'm asking every citizen all across our land to join me in launching a new golden age for America.
Exactly. Golden Age of America contest. You have until 5. Now, meanwhile, Governor Bob Ferguson, yeah, him, you know who I'm talking about.
Yeah, it's not my name.
All right, Turd Ferguson.
He knows where his priorities are. So today he signed a bill into law that restricts out-of-state military forces from entering Washington. Man, that sounds so scary, right? Why would any state want to do that? Are we talking about a deadly insurrection against the blue state of Washington? No, he doesn't want the National Guard here. You know why? He doesn't want the National Guard being sent to secure the border. Well, you're a little late, Bob, and I'll tell you why. The border's already secure. We had the Assistant Secretary of DHS on the show 2 weeks ago, and she was telling us that border crossings at the northern border are down over 95%. That nonsense that was happening at the Peace Arch, where people could just walk across the border, then hail an Uber and come on in, not happening anymore. And they were able to do that with the resources they had. So what is this? Virtue signaling. But it also indicates something else. They want an open border. They don't want secure borders. Now, this was passed as we don't want militias coming in. Oh, we're going to ban the Proud Boys or whatever else it is. But at the end of the day, what was it about? And I said this at the time. As soon as they revealed this, I said this isn't about militias. Militias is how they're going to scare everybody on the left into supporting this thing. It's about not letting the National Guard of Texas or Florida or anybody else from coming into the state to secure the border. So does that mean next legislative session they're going to come out with a bill to get rid of the Border Patrol? We don't want the federal government here at all. They're already a sanctuary state. By the way, a whole bunch of sheriffs went to Washington, D.C. today to meet with Pam Bondi at the AG's office, talk to her, or she is the AG, to meet with Pam Bondi about how they can work with the federal government in defiance of Nick Brown and Bob Ferguson. Because let's not forget, Nick Brown is actually suing Sheriff Wagner, who's the one who said, yeah, I'm going to follow federal law, guys, not your stupidity that puts citizens at risk. So Bob Ferguson, this is his big virtue signaling bill. Will it actually accomplish anything? Well, if God forbid there's a natural disaster in Washington like the Oso mudslide, and you have to bring in the National Guard from somewhere else, does that mean then you're going to let them come in? Okay, so when we need help, you can come in, but not to stop the illegal immigrants who are streaming across the border. We don't want any federal agencies in here like, remember during the autonomous zone? When President Trump tried to sneak in federal agents to help clear out some of the lunatic activists in the autonomous zone? And then Jenny Durkin and Jay Inslee and Ted Wheeler and all of them were like, get them out of here. We don't want your help. We like the armed occupation of our cities. We like our cities being torched by Antifa. We love those rioters. We hate Starbucks. Yeah. Who's really going to benefit from some stunt like this that Bob Ferguson's doing? Let's just go to the most recent arrests from ICE Seattle. Let's go to this one on April 26. ERO Seattle continues to arrest those who pose a threat to safety of our children through the U.S. They said they assisted the Marshal Service and the Border Patrol in arresting Yushiro Yamashita, a citizen of the Philippines convicted of sexual assault of a minor. How about ICE removing a twice-deported criminal alien wanted for human trafficking in El Salvador? Yes, these are the people that Bob Ferguson, Nick Brown, and Washington Democrats want to keep inside the United States. Meanwhile, who are the kinds of people that are teaching our kids? We got predators there too. Predators go where there is prey. And I hope the predators are finding out that they can't sneak across the border anymore. This story here, I got the court documents last week from King County. A middle school wrestling coach in Auburn, Washington, has been charged with multiple felony offenses after allegedly engaging in sexually explicit communications with a 14-year-old student, including persuading her to send him nude images and sexually explicit video of herself. Now, for those of you with kids in the car, I have cleaned this up significantly from what the charging documents say. Just know I cannot get this out of my mind because it is so graphic and it's so horrible. But this was somebody who was teaching in our schools. Daniel Ralph Lee, 64, who served as the head coach for the Olympic middle school wrestling team for 2 seasons, was arrested on April 15th in Maple Valley by Auburn Police Department detectives during a traffic stop. He faces charges including communication with a minor for immoral purposes, first-degree possession of depictions of a minor engaged in sexually explicit conduct, and first-degree viewing of such depictions. According to the Auburn School District, Lee, who lives in Seattle, was not a teacher at Olympic Middle School and had not been employed since the end of last wrestling season. Do you know what that means? He's 64. Either they retired him early because they knew these things were going on, either he got out of there when he thought they were on to him, or they had already fired him, would be my guess. I'm curious how long this has actually been going on for. He's 64. He's at the end of his career. Prosecutors allege that Lee first met the student identified as BW at a school wrestling event and later exchanged phone numbers. Over time, the communication shifted from sports-related to personal and then explicitly sexual. Lee reportedly told BW that he liked the attention he received from her and admitted to receiving and viewing the images she had sent. Now, according to the King County Prosecutor's Office, the defendant was in a position of trust at a school to coach young students, and he abused that position of trust. The defendant poses a danger to the community, and the state is concerned that if he is released, he will continue to prey on children in the community, and they requested a bail amount of $150,000. So now my question is, how many other cases do they think there are? Investigators uncovered alarming evidence from the student's phone, which had been collected by school staff and turned over to police. The messages contained things I'm not going to talk about on the radio. Let's just say that. According to a police report, Lee responded with messages calling the student, let's just say, sexual names in nature, and he said he was honored she trusted him enough to send him the content. Text logs show that the teacher was actually the one who was initiating most of these conversations. The student disclosed the nature of the messages to another teacher on April 3rd, prompting an immediate report to the school principal, who then notified law enforcement and the student's mother. Now, you're lucky here. Why do I say they're somewhat lucky? Because remember, it wasn't too long ago that the Democrats, when they were having the fight over the Parental Bill of Rights, were trying to make it that schools didn't have to report these things to parents for days, literally for days. And they still may not have to. We're lucky this school actually did what they were supposed to do in this case and told the parent right away. The case adds to a growing list of recent reports involving sexual misconduct by school personnel across Washington state and the country. Critics point to systemic failures in safeguarding students, with some alleging that school administrators and lawmakers are not doing enough to protect children from sexual predators in educational environments. No, here in Washington, we're actually opening the doors for them. Come on in. Here's the students. Oh, you've got a criminal record? No problem. Come teach at the school. Oh, you want to talk about sex all the time in the classroom? Come on in. More than happy to have you. More than happy to. Come in, come in, come in. The incident has also added to the political debate around Initiative 2081, the Parents' Bill of Rights, which seeks to give parents more control over their children's education and access to school records, including notification of incidents involving their children's physical and mental health. Earlier this month, Democrats in the Washington state legislature voted to gut many of the protections of the Parental Rights Initiative, and just like the property taxes that we discussed earlier in the show, when did they decide to do it? In the middle of the night. Yes, like Billy Joel says. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Gary in Tacoma. Gary, what's up?
My wife and I were just in line paying our property taxes.
Oh, yeah, that gave me a heart attack this morning when I went in online to do that.
Yeah. Well, the person that was in front of us paying his, Hispanic man, he couldn't speak really good English, but they said, oh, you don't have to pay yours. Somebody paid yours in full for the full year. And he asked who, and they didn't know.
Wait a second. So somebody had covered this person's property taxes for them?
That's what they said. They said by donation.
By donation. This is fascinating. This is fascinating. Gary, I want you to do me a favor, okay? I want you to email me the office this happened at, okay? Don't tell me over the phone. I'm going to go dig it up and look it up, okay? I'm going to give you my email address. It's ari@kvi.com, okay? ari@kvi.com, okay?
ARI
at KVI.
At KVI.
Yeah,
okay.
Real simple. So if you could just email that information over to me, I'm going to send them a few requests for comment and see exactly what happened today, all right?
Okay.
Yeah, appreciate the tip, guys. Appreciate you listening to the show. Thanks for joining us today. And by the way, watch out for those property taxes. They're going up and up and up. I'm going to give you another phone number since you got your pen handy, okay? I want you to call Bob Ferguson's office and encourage him to veto these massive property tax increases, okay? Here's the number, 360-902-4111. That's 360-902-4111, okay?
Okay.
All right.
411.
Thanks so much, guys. Appreciate it, okay?
1?
Yeah, 4111.
Oh, 4111.
All right, thank you.
All right, thanks so much, guys. Appreciate the call. Appreciate the tip. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, you give us a call or a text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Meanwhile, I was driving to work today and listening on the news, and one of our local stories has made the national news because it is so macabre. It is so brutal, this murder that is now all over the national media. This one we covered last week, but now it's getting a little worse because we're getting more details about what happened. A Thurston County judge, according to Como News, denied bail for the handyman accused of killing 82-year-old Marcia Norman and burying her body in concrete under a shed. We told you last week about Jeffrey Ziz, 47. He appeared virtually from jail at a court hearing Monday afternoon where prosecutors asked him to be held without bail for counts of murder, kidnapping, and unlawful disposal of human remains. Now, don't forget this guy is a convicted child molester, and our question at the time was, what was he doing out of jail? Now, according to Deputy Prosecuting Attorney Rosemary Fitzgerald, she told Judge Sue Wilson the allegations before the court are shocking, both in their nature, that the alleged victim was an 82-year-old woman, a member of the community who the defendant over a 2-year period befriended and knew lived alone. The allegations here are among the most serious and very troubling in terms of a prepared plan and execution. An arrest report released Monday outlined new details about the investigation into Norman's disappearance and death. According to investigators, Ziz worked as a handyman for Norman at her Tenino home for approximately 2 years. You know what I can't help but think about? Tenino. That's where they wanted to put the people they released from McNeil Island. They want to release the level 3 sex offenders from McNeil Island to Tenino. Tenino was able to stop them from doing so. They want to release the level 3 sex offenders, the most likely to re-offend, according to the FBI, to less restrictive housing alternatives. So even though they've locked these guys away, they wanted to release them to people like that. Earlier this year, Norman told her family members about a disturbing encounter with Ziz when she woke in the middle of the night and found him standing at the foot of her bed. At that point, wouldn't you say, you're fired? Norman stated that she told Ziz it was inappropriate for him to be there and he needed to leave. Norman told her son that she spoke with Ziz and made it clear to him that if they were to keep a professional relationship, he was not to cross those boundaries again. The incident was not reported to law enforcement. On April 4th, several family members went to Norman's home after she had not been heard of for days. The family found her wallet and vehicles were still at the home, and her pill organizer showed she had not taken her medication since April 1st. Family members were able to get into her Apple ID, saw text messages with her handyman, Jeffrey K. Ziz, in which Ziz and Norman had planned to have dinner on Tuesday, April 1st at her house. Investigators went to Ziz's home, questioned him about her disappearance. Initially, Ziz told investigators he had gone to Norman's home. They had dinner and wine until he went home around 9 p.m. Ziz claimed he went home, went to bed, and did not leave the house again until the next day when he left for work. Investigators, however, say they have records from an automatic license plate reader camera that shows Ziz's truck was recorded in Olympia at 3:04 a.m. and again at 7:03 a.m. They say that Ziz admitted he had lied and did not return, and that he did return to Norman's house twice that night after following dinner. He said he went there around 12 a.m. to collect some tools, and he said he went back there and slept for a short time, and then he realized he needed his trailer for a job the next day. They said they asked him about the bedroom encounter, and Ziz admitted that it happened, and he stated that he went into her room while she was sleeping, and he rubbed her shoulder wanting to speak with her. Yeah, that's not the way she described it. They also got a warrant to search his home, and detectives found a 5-page typed letter that appeared to be meticulously planned out the burglary and sexual assault of an adult woman identified as his customer. Ziz's roommate told police that Ziz borrowed his truck and had not returned home. The roommate reported the truck as stolen and told police he was concerned about Ziz harming himself. The same day, the Idaho State Police contacted the Thurston County Sheriff's Office and reported that the missing truck was found in a very remote area. Troopers said the truck was damaged after a possible collision with an elk. An arrest warrant was issued for Ziz for violating terms of his release for a prior sex offense in Washington State. Later that night, police in Montana arrested Ziz. During the investigation, they tracked his movements and her disappearance. They found he had rented an excavator and a trailer. The rental company had a GPS tracking device on the equipment. The GPS data showed the excavator went to one site. They went to the site, contacted the owner, who said she hired Ziz to build a shed on her property, and she said that Norman had recommended Ziz. They took 2 dogs who are able to detect human sense of decomposition, and they found her in the shed. They found her body in the shed. During an autopsy, it was discovered that wrapped around her wrists and ankles were long black Velcro straps, as well as evidence she had been bound prior to her death. Thurston County Coroner Gary Warnock said the case was the worst he had ever seen in his 25-year career. He determined that Norman died from blunt force trauma and penetrating injuries to the head. And those injuries were from a nail gun, and her injuries were described as happening over the course of hours. So I ask, why was this guy loose? He had previous convictions. He had previous warrants out for his arrest. This is a guy who never should have been loose. We know that a lot of these sexual deviants are ones who are most likely to re-offend. What was he doing loose? If you needed a reason why these monsters need to be kept away from society on McNeil Island, this woman is dead because this guy was released, because of society's compassion that allowed this guy to be out of jail, allegedly. But yeah, it's pretty clear that this guy did it, according to all the evidence, indicates very, very strongly that he did. Just an absolutely horrifying story. When we come back, my friends, lots more to discuss as the show continues. Supreme Court of the United States exposes how bad DEI is in the classroom. We have that awesome audio for you when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. We've discussed many times on this program how all the DEI insanity is woven into every part of the curriculum. So when they say, oh, you can opt out of the sex ed curriculum, you say, well, why is the sex ed curriculum in math class? Why is it in reading, writing, English? Why is it in history? Why is it in all this stuff? You can't opt out of it. It's literally in everything. Well, there's a case before the Supreme Court, and they heard arguments today from religious parents who say young children can't be expected to separate a teacher's moral messages from their family's belief, according to Fox News, raising the question of whether exposure to LGBTQ-themed storybooks in elementary classrooms constitutes coercion. Now, I think back to my days as a kid in the classroom. What were the books we had that were being read to us? Where the Wild Things Are. That's the kind of stuff we got. The Bernstein Bears. It's not Berenstein. That's the way us Jews always said it, right? Bernstein, whatever. The Bears. We heard about the Bears. Winnie the Pooh. What's with all the LGBTQ stuff? Why is that being put in the classroom unless it's tried to indoctrinate children? Now, what was fascinating was Eric S. Baxter, the attorney representing Maryland parents in this case, was going head-to-head with Justice Kavanaugh during arguments. And Justice Kavanaugh exposed what's actually going on in these classrooms. Give a listen to this clip of what happened at the Supreme Court today.
All sorts of things. The county has opt-outs for all sorts of things. The other Maryland counties have opt-outs for all sorts of things. And yet for this one thing, they changed in mid-year and say no more opt-outs. I'm just not understanding feasibility.
So again, I think what's in the record is that with respect to these books as they were deployed in the classroom, there was high absenteeism in some schools. For example, dozens of students being opted out in, I think Mr. Baxter said the average size of an elementary school in Montgomery County is 700 students. So each grade is 125. If you have dozens of students walking out, making arrangements for those students to have adequate space and supervision and alternative instruction, I think is infeasible.
But they do it for all sorts of other opt-outs.
They don't do it for all sorts of other opt-outs. There's a limited universe of things that students can opt out from. The Family Life and Healthy Sexuality curriculum stands alone. It is mandated by the state. It is something where you are able to predict precisely when the curriculum is going to be deployed. There's a
It's the most similar substantively to what we have here, and there's an opt-out allowed there. I guess I'm not understanding why Montgomery County School Board stands alone. I think in the country. You can tell me if there's another school board that's done something like this.
I apologize.
Both the kind of books that are being used and prohibiting opt-outs. And I guess I'm just not understanding. The whole goal, I think, of some of our religion precedents is to look for the win-win, to look for the situation where you can respect the religious beliefs and accommodate the religious beliefs while the state or city or whatever it may be can pursue its goals. And here, they're not asking you to change what's taught in the classroom. They're not asking you to change that at all. A lot of the rhetoric suggests that they might have, that they were trying to do that, but that's not what they're trying to do. They're only seeking to be able to walk out so that they don't have to, the parents don't have their children exposed to these things that are contrary to their own beliefs.
That's the point right there. They're not asking you to change the curriculum. They're asking to leave the classroom or opt out. If you can't allow them to opt out, then you have a problem. And you should be asking another question too. What makes this curriculum so valuable? Why is the LGBTQ themed storybook the hill you want to die on? Montgomery County has limited financial resources, I assume. You blew all your money taking this case to the Supreme Court? This is what you want to fight about? Now, on the flip side, I'll play devil's advocate for a second. A lot of people say they have these fights over the books in the library. Let me tell you something. Most kids aren't taking out those books from the library. A lot of those books are put there, and kids aren't reading them anymore. You know how I know? A lot of families don't even go to the library anymore. A lot of families, what do? They have the digital content at home, which in theory the parents control. I understand both fights, by the way. I'm not defending one or the other. But here they're not saying remove this stuff from the curriculum. They're saying, you want to keep the stuff in the curriculum, fine, but my kid ain't going to it. What this case is actually revealing is how woven into the curriculum all this junk is. It's not just about what books are in the library that some kid could stumble upon. This is the stuff that is the kids are being brainwashed with. And if you can't get away from it, then you have a very, very big problem. And that's exactly what's happening right here. This stuff is woven into the curriculum. You should be asking yourselves why teachers are so desperate to teach sexual content to kids. I remember my health teacher. It was a little awkward having a female health teacher in high school for a boys' class. Wasn't the most appropriate or the best idea to do, but we still had it anyway. It was more drugs, alcohol kind of conversations, but still, things come up in those conversations. And she was always awkward having these conversations because you don't want to have these conversations with a bunch of teenage boys. It's weird. Why are these teachers so proud of having these sexual conversations with the kids? It's a little nuts. It's a little crazy. By the way, fun little interview on Fox News today. Randy Weingarten, the worst teacher in the U.S. who doesn't actually teach, she's head of one of the teachers' unions, was with Martha McCallum on Fox News and admitted she wouldn't actually read the books that these parents want in the classroom.
Community. So
do you believe, though, that there's an appropriate age to have a discussion? These are 4 to 6-year-olds, and they're being read, and this is out loud in the classroom, not just, oh, this is a book on the shelf in the library. If there's a particular child that, you might want to read this with, but, just as an example, my pronouns are like the weather. They change depending on how I feel, and that's okay because they're my words. Sometimes I use all the pronouns I can think of, just as one example here.
Let me put it this way,
Go ahead.
Martha, and I think that this will be shocking to you. These would not be the books I would be reading as a classroom teacher to kids who are 4 to 6 years old.
So why are they in the classroom? You're head of the union. Then why are they in the classroom? What is the motivation for this fight? Why should this stuff even be presented to the kids as an option? Kids 4 to 6 years old, the most they know about sex is what they've seen with Disney princesses kissing a handsome prince, and that's about it. That's all, at most, they should be exposed to. They're busy worrying about cars and trucks and Barbies or whatever else it is at that age. And you're trying to force the sexual stuff on them? You should be asking yourself why. And any teacher that's doing that with the kids should not be in the classroom. When we come back, my friends, speaking of the crazy stuff going on in the classroom, Harvard is suing the Trump administration. Well, they got some pretty good lawyers over there. How do you think this is going to shake out? We'll discuss when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Remember, you have until 5 o'clock to enter the word I said at 4, so they can be entered in the Golden Age of America competition. Your next chance to win comes up tomorrow morning during the morning ride with Phil Vandervoort. So, switching gears over to what's going on at Harvard. Harvard has now sued the Trump administration because they're mad they froze billions of dollars in federal grants. Now, Harvard is sitting on $53 billion endowment. Harvard is so big, it's actually its own corporation, Harvard Inc. You know any other corporations that get to operate as a nonprofit also? They don't need this federal government funding. They just want the extra money. And to me, this is something that has exposed the huge grift that's going on, where these schools are getting all this money from these kids and all this money in federal government subsidies, and is sitting on top of these massive, massive, massive endowment funds. And then they allow anti-Semitism, anti-Americanism to permeate their schools. Now, I have confidence in the Trump administration, but Harvard's got some pretty good lawyers, has produced some pretty good lawyers. But at the same time, think to yourself, how many resources they're allocating to continue being radical anti-American anti-Semites, to continue supporting terror on campus. That's their MO? That's the direction they want to go with this? Well, apparently they filed the lawsuit because they're probably thinking, hey, we can get all the other schools to join us. They'll join us in our lawsuit against the Trump administration. Yeah, Columbia already started caving a lot because it's not worth the fight to them. And Columbia has a pretty good law school also, because also the optics are terrible. Absolutely terrible. We had the kid Shabbos Kestenbaum on our show multiple times, as a matter of fact. The one who was dealing with all this anti-Semitism on campus, he's coming to Seattle in a couple weeks. And the stories he told were mind-boggling. Kids being hit, kids being chased down, kids being spat on, chanting for their deaths, and the school faculty and administrators, some of them backing it. It's ridiculous to me that this is what has happened to our institutions of higher learning. I mean, John Adams went to Harvard before we were even a country. That's how Harvard is older than the United States of America. And this is what has happened to our institutions of higher learning. I think there's only 2 Ivy League schools that the Trump administration hasn't gone after yet. I wonder when that's going to happen to UW. UW is already circling the wagons. UW is already making cuts, hiring freezes in many places, many departments, because they're worried about the same thing happening to them, and rightfully so. They deserve it. They allowed this stuff to happen on campus. If a MAGA encampment was set up on campus, how long do you think they'd let it stay there? How long? If an encampment of KKK members was there on campus, and then it was attacking black students, how long would that be allowed to remain on campus? If ICE was on campus, how long do you think they'd allow it to remain on campus? But no, they don't allow any of that kind of stuff, right? All that stuff, nope. But attack the Jews, do whatever you want, no problem. Sharon Osbourne, yeah, that's Sharon Osbourne. Not somebody I normally consult, but she had an interesting social media post on X. She's talking about Coachella, where all these bands came out, like Green Day, and were having the crowd leading them in anti-Semitic chants. She said Coachella will be remembered as a festival that compromised its moral and spiritual integrity. Golden Voice, the festival organizer, facilitated this by allowing artists to use Coachella stage as a platform for political expression. At a time when the world is experiencing significant unrest, music should serve as an escape, not a stage for political discourse. While festivals like Coachella showcase remarkable talent from around the globe, music's primary purpose is to unite people. By the way, the irony of a music festival cheering for the deaths of Jews when a whole bunch of Jews were killed at a music festival on October 7th. Oh, the irony abounds. It should not be a venue for promoting terrorist organizations or spreading hate. Green Day, she says, a band I personally admire, chose to share their views on the Middle East during their Coachella performance. While I respect their right to express their opinions, such discussions would have been more appropriate at their own concert, not at a festival. Kneecap, an Irish rap group, took their performance to a different level by incorporating aggressive political statements. They were literally chanting for the deaths of Jews. Let's be real about it. That's what they were doing. Their actions included projections of anti-Israel messaging and hate speech, and this band openly supported terrorist organizations. This behavior raises concerns about the appropriateness of their participation in such a festival and shows they are booked to play in the USA. Reports indicate that Golden Voice was unaware of Kneecap's political intentions when they were booked. You know, that's such a dodge, by the way. Take Saturday Night Live. You remember when Sinead O'Connor tore up the picture of the Pope? Everybody went to Lorne Michaels afterwards and go, did you know she was going to do that? And he said, no. In rehearsal, she tore up a picture of something else. I forget what it was, but she tore up a picture of something else. She took it on her own. They're free of liability in that case. In this case, whose lights guy is that? Whose sound guy is that? They projected it on the big screen. You don't get approval over what goes up there or not. It's your music festival. It's such a dodge. This isn't Germany in 1938. This is California in 2025. Looks like the far left elites and the far right have something they agree on, and that's their hatred of Jews. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. When we come back, the midnight attack in the Washington legislature on your finances. That's right, my friends. You are about to pay through the nose in taxes. We'll tell you what they hit you with Senator Nikki Torres when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Well, last night was fun. Not. Democrats in the Washington legislature decide to level us with every kind of tax you can imagine. Nobody will escape these tax increases. And one of the things that's even more insane is some of these tax increases, they had faked us. They said, okay, we're not pursuing this huge increase in property taxes. Instead, we're just pursuing an increase in property taxes to pay for failing schools. Joining us now to discuss on the KVI studio line, Senator Nikki Torres. Thanks so much for being with us today.
Yeah, thanks for inviting me, Ari.
Yeah, no problem. So let's go through this a piece at a time. So basically what they did was everybody was convinced, okay, they're done pursuing this insane increase. I'm so mad. I can barely speak straight today. This insane increase in property taxes. And then instead what they did was, we're going to increase your property taxes, but it's going to go towards schools. Is that so that Republicans were on the wrong side of the issue? What was the thinking there?
Yeah, because it's always, it's about the children, Ari. It's always about the children.
Yeah.
So that is exactly how they try to twist this and make us sound like villains, is because they want to say that it's always about the children. They back in 2013 with the McCleary decision, or was it 2018? 2013-18 was before my time here. That was the Supreme Court ruled that it's the state's paramount duty to fund basic education, and we still haven't done that correctly. And now we're putting this pressure on to the local level, to the poor districts. People with their property taxes are going to have to pay more. And this is how they're disguising it in this bill.
Right. And also there are richer areas in the state. There are poorer areas in the state. So isn't this just going to create a bigger income disparity between richer school districts and poorer school districts? This isn't going to fix anything.
Yeah, exactly. It's not really going to fix anything. This bill, the version of the bill that came out of the House yesterday, it is expected to raise about $3.5 billion in additional local property tax authority over the next 6 years. But the wealthy districts will easily raise that money, while the poor districts, not as much. And also, they probably won't get voter approval for it either.
Right. So they're going to bypass the voters, and people are going to get priced out of their homes. And more people are choosing private school over public school because the public schools are failing, and money is not the solution. I mean, for example, this DEI garbage they have in the classrooms, it's eating up time that could go towards math, history, English, reading, writing, science, STEM. And instead, they're pushing this nonsense that has been shown to drag down scores and mess with kids' mental health.
Exactly, yeah, and that's what we're seeing and so you're seeing less of enrollment in public schools, and they're feeling that because the money follows the pupil. So the schools are feeling the pinch, and they're saying we're struggling, but it's because students are no longer enrolling. Parents are taking the students out of public schools.
Are they considering any cuts whatsoever, or is it just we're going to pass an $18 billion in taxes, whether it's on businesses, whether it's on people, whether it's in gas tax, whether it's on sales tax, just because we don't want to cut any of our spending, no matter how much waste and fraud there might be?
Well, I haven't seen them looking at any cuts. All I've seen them is, the children. This is for the children, and this is why we need it. And that we're bad because we don't think the same way. But we're actually looking at more common sense approaches. And this is not the right approach because, like we talked about, property owners are already feeling the pinch from the rising costs. And this puts even more pressure on homeowners, especially in districts where incomes aren't keeping up. It's not sustainable, and it's just not fair.
And also, when you start taxing all the businesses already sent a letter to the Washington legislature saying, if you do this, we are going to have problems and we're going to start leaving. Amazon warned Seattle about this, and they still hit them with the taxes, and then they moved to Bellevue. Amazon could easily pick up roots and go. Microsoft could do the same thing. Boeing, they've already started doing it. It'll just take longer. But do they not realize they're killing all the golden geese, the flock of golden geese?
Yeah, capital flight is very real, and that's what we're seeing is that if people more than likely have a house somewhere else, businesses can easily pick up those corporations like Amazon and Boeing, or Microsoft, they can easily pick up and move or take those positions with them, those employment positions, or they have employees working remotely. So to them, it may not be that big of a deal. They can just easily move out of state and conduct business in a business-friendly state.
In the last few minutes we have with Senator Nikki Torres, are we banking on Bob Ferguson saving us? Is that where we're at? Is that how bad things have gotten? Because Republicans just don't have the votes. Is there anything that can be done about this?
Sadly, I hate to admit that we don't have the votes, but we're waiting to see what the conversation is going to be with the new governor. I know that our leadership has been meeting with him on a weekly basis, and I'm hoping that we hear something back. He has not given us much inclination about what he's going to veto and what he's not. He's just giving a number to the majority party of trying to keep it under $8 billion, but we'll see what he actually does at the end. I'm hoping he uses that veto power on his pen.
I cannot believe we are hinging all our hopes on Governor Bob Ferguson. Senator Nikki Torres.
Living on a prayer, Ari. Living on a prayer. Remember that song?
Oh, do I remember that song? Bon Jovi's the soundtrack of my life. Yes, absolutely. Yeah. I remember that song. Senator Nikki Torres, thank you so much for fighting so hard on behalf of all of us and keeping us informed and keeping everybody else in Washington informed as well. Really do appreciate your time today.
No, I appreciate you. Have a great rest of your day, Ari.
You too. We got a whole lot more to discuss as the show continues. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Welcome to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI, your home for the politically homeless, streaming live at thekvi.com and KVI app. You want to be part of the most dangerous show on the airwaves? Call or text the Warrior Injury Law Studio line at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Coming up at 5:45, your chance to win $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and 4 tickets to the Puyallup RV show. But before we get to any of that, my friends, activists today are planning to gather at a Tesla showroom for what organizers are calling the Tesla Takedown Tuesday, a rush hour protest aimed at CEO Elon Musk and Tesla investors. According to My Northwest, they're going to be over at Westlake Avenue North at the Tesla dealership right nearby. So we don't do traffic on this show, but you might want to avoid the area for the lunatics that will be out there targeting a Tesla dealership. This is how you spend Earth Day? Targeting EVs? Oh, it's because they realize that the battery in the EVs are so bad, they're actually really bad for the environment, right? That's what the eco people are mad about? Oh, no, it's not that. They're mad at Elon Musk. So what they've said is Elon Musk is destroying our democracy, and he's using the fortune he built at Tesla to do it. Tesla Takedown is a peaceful protest movement. Is that why people across the country are vandalizing buildings? That doesn't sound very peaceful to me. Is that why you guys are vandalizing Teslas? By the way, this is the most ridiculous thing. You know why? I was in a parking garage the other day, and I'm in the parking garage, and I see a Tesla is parked near me, and they have one of those no Elon magnets on the car. Now, I have friends who drive Teslas who are conservatives, and they say, I'm thinking about getting those just so my car doesn't get vandalized. Most of the people who own EVs are people who are on the left side of the aisle. So you're going after the very people that would be supporting you in theory? Doesn't make much sense to me at all. Now, the Washington State Legislature passed a new tax on Tesla last night. House Bill 2077 imposes an onerous excise tax on the state's zero-emission vehicle credits. Now, is this something that only goes after Tesla or all EVs? So in your hatred for Elon Musk, on Earth Day, you pass a tax against EVs that are supposed to be climate friendly. Can we do that again? To celebrate Earth Day, you passed a tax on EVs, which you claim are climate friendly. Does everybody realize at this point that the whole climate change nonsense was all a grift to take your money, to take Tesla's money, to take anybody else's money they wanted? Climate emissions have only gotten worse in this state since they've done all their climate insanity. Jay Inslee goes around the world going, look how good I did. I did so good. Things are so good in Washington. Look at the climate change I stopped. Yeah, it only got worse. He missed every single climate goal he set. Every single one. Because the money's not actually going to that. It's whatever left-leaning cause you want or Reuben Carlisle's pocket or his company. That's where the money's actually going to. Anytime they want your money, it is for whatever special projects there are, not to actually make your life better. What do they want the money for now? Whatever their ridiculous spending is, because the targeting of Tesla last night wasn't the only tax they passed. Would you like to know another one they have? This one, according to Cairo 7, a bill that includes a whopping 50% hike on more than 40 liquor-related fees in Washington, has earned the dubious honor of being the closest for vote of the 2025 legislative session so far. Second substitute, Senate Bill 5786 squeaked through the Senate on Thursday by the slimmest of margins, 25-24, with 5 Democratic senators crossing party lines to join all Republicans in voting against it. If you're a bar, brewery, winery, nightclub, grocery store, hotel, even a day spa that hands you a glass of wine while you're getting a facial, yes, you can actually get a permit for that. You're about to pay more, sometimes a lot more, to keep pouring drinks. The bill hikes up fees by 50% for dozens of license types, including those for distilleries, caterers, taverns, and even tasting rooms. In play terms, if you legally sell or serve alcohol in Washington, odds are your fees are going up across the board. A fiscal note attached to the bill estimates it'll bring in more than $18 million over the next 2 years. Let's be honest, those extra costs are probably getting passed right along to the customers. The application fee for retail licenses is going up 50% too. On top of that, the Liquor and Cannabis Board is now required to raise all license fees that were set by rule, not written into law, by that same 50%. Supporters say this is about keeping up with inflation. Yeah, sure. Right, whatever you say. Democrats, who control both the House and the Senate, are also on the hunt for ways to close a budget gap. It's not a budget gap, Cairo 7. It's to control their out-of-control future spending. They're out-of-control spending that got them to this place. You know what? That's it. No more of this. We're done calling it a budget gap. We're done, officially. We're just going to say out-of-control spending from now on, because calling it a budget gap makes it look like something went wrong, some terrible tragedy. They had record revenues at the Washington state legislature. Record revenues. Does everybody realize it's the Democrats doing this to them? Watch the Democrats try and blame Republicans. Oh, and by the way, I guarantee you they will. So, for example, here's one for you. House Bill 2049, which increases local property taxes, which they voted on at 1:36 in the morning. I was told nothing good happens after 10 p.m. Some people say after 2 p.m. I would argue to say after 1 a.m., you're done for the night. Maybe I'm a little bit older. I remember we went out for a friend. He was about to get married. It wasn't like it was a bachelor party, but it's not that kind of bachelor party. We went to a spa. We went bowling. We had some really good Jewish takeout, kosher takeout food. That's what we did. And I remember the guys wanted to go to like some arcade or something. And I turned to my roommate from Israel, and I said, "Dude, are you tired?" And he goes, "Yeah, I'm tired." And we used to be the ones who stayed out all night. We're getting old. Nothing good happens after 1 a.m. People in the Washington state legislature, they ain't exactly spring chickens, most of them. So they're out at 1:30 in the morning passing this insane tax, which is going to increase your local property taxes. What's it going to go towards? Schools. So that way Democrats can claim, we had to save the children from the Republicans and Donald Trump because of their war on DEI. You guys do realize that you were losing all those students during Joe Biden's years and well before that too. Your enrollment rates have been going down for a very long time. But as soon as you locked all those kids out of school, what happened? The parents saw what their kids were learning on Zoom school while they were sitting next to them at the dining room table doing their homework for 2 years. And they said, what the what? No, absolutely not. Why are you teaching this nonsense to my kids? I don't want you talking about sex every 5 minutes. I don't want you to talk about George Floyd. I don't want you inviting them to protest. You said we have to stay home, but now you're saying my kid can go to a protest, but it can't go to school? Enough of this nonsense. Enough. So what they're going to do is they're going to say, we had to do it. Donald Trump and DEI. Watch. If Bob Ferguson, you know, the governor of Washington state.
Yeah, it's not my name.
All right, Turd Ferguson.
If he actually signs this stuff, he's got one of two choices. He could come out again and say, I'm not signing this stuff. I'm not doing it, which he's been doing this whole time, but he's trying to be the good cop. And the Democrats in the Washington legislature are trying to be the bad cop. And what he could do is he could come out and say, I'm not signing this. And a lot of people would respect him for it. But you know what he's going to say? Well, look, you know, we all have to make sacrifices, and I found these $4 billion in cuts, but we have to do progressive revenue. He said it in his last statement. Progressive revenue means taxes. That's what they're going to do. Raise your taxes. It's just, what is the threshold that Bob Ferguson wants to be at?
Jared Ferguson, it's a funny name.
What is the threshold he wants to be at, where he's okay with it, where he thinks it won't hurt him nationally on his quest for whatever his next position is? It's crazy. At the same time, House Bill 2081 taxes employers in our state more than $5 billion over the next 5 years. So over the next 4 years. So you know what this means? They're taxing everybody, every business, every industry, your gas, your alcohol. They're taxing your discovery passes. By the way, you know what we should all do? I know a lot of you out there love nature. Don't get discovery passes this year. Don't renew them. Don't get them. Get America the Beautiful passes instead. Go get those instead, not the discovery passes. Go get the ones for the national parks, not the state parks. Go get those and say, we're not paying your ridiculous fees anymore. You guys claim you're all about sending people to parks. You're raising the fees on literally everything. Nothing is getting by unscathed. This is insane. and it has to stop. The only way it can stop is if Bob Ferguson actually says he's going to veto this stuff. So here's what I want you to do. I want you to melt his phone lines, and I want you to be nice to the people on the other end. I want you to call Bob Ferguson and say no to these ridiculous taxes. Say, please don't sign them. I can't believe we're putting all our hope on Bob Ferguson. As Senator Torres said just a few minutes ago, it's like we're living on a prayer here, hoping that Bob Ferguson's going to do the right thing. 360-902-4111. 360-902-4111. It's not a budget gap. It's out of control spending. Bob Ferguson, to his credit, already laid out $4 billion worth of cuts we could do. He claims it's a $16 billion budget. We know it's closer to 7. Let's split the difference. Let's call it 8. Washington Doge has already found about $2 billion in cuts. That's 6. You're almost there. You're almost there. But the Democrats in the Washington state legislature, they're not worried about the budget problems now. They want to make sure they have the spending for whatever ridiculous nonsense they want in the future. Not just in the future, for the next 2 years. That's why they're taxing everything. I saw that Seattle is now considering taxing the rich again. That's what is the center square. Seattle officials are weighing new progressive taxes as debate swirls over whether they would help or hurt the city's already slumping revenue streams. On April 16th, Seattle City Council member Alexis Mercedes Rink, she's the one who's the socialist, by the way, announced that she is exploring progressive taxes that would make the city's wealthiest residents pay more amid an anticipated $241.5 million drop in revenue over the next 2 years. They literally admitted, Bruce Harrell literally admitted, that this is what happened when you taxed Amazon and they moved out of town. They went to Bellevue. What do you think is going to happen if you do this in Seattle? You'll lose only more money. You guys are killing this city, absolutely killing it. And then I saw this from the center square. An economist says removing Washington's 1% property tax cap could help ease projected budget shortfalls at both the state and local levels. Washington faces a projected budget shortfall of up to $15 billion that has led Democrats to consider progressive tax revenues in order to fill the gap. Local governments are also feeling the pressure. Talks about Seattle. In response, state Democrats are considering a wealth tax on financial assets. Oh, by the way, they brought that back last night, too, as well as expanded capital gains tax and estate taxes. Man, I really wish there was an initiative or something that could have stopped the capital gains tax. Oh, wait, there was one. People didn't vote for it. So now they're exploring this new revenue. Now, you have this expert, his name is Vigdor, who's now Professor Jacob Vigdor, says she's exploring ways to tax high-income residents. How did that work out last time? If you call yourself an economist and you think taxes are the only solution, you should lose your designation. You should lose whatever degrees you have. She says the tax system is regressive due to a lack of income tax and low property taxes. Oh, let's just raise everything. Let's raise all the taxes. Do you know why people go to Florida? Because their taxes are lower than ours. They're considering how to give back the property taxes. Are you kidding me? This is beyond insane. Oh, and here's something else. Anytime they talk about, oh, it's a regressive tax, have they stopped any other tax? Any other tax at any point? No, not at all. They're considering raising every single tax because our taxes are so regressive. They just want your money. Don't believe their verbiage. Don't believe anything they say. It's all a complete sham. Whether it's about climate change, whether it's about budget deficit, everything the Democrats say is a lie. They just want your cash. We go to the Warrior Injury Law Studio line. Take a call from Stilgar in Kirkland. Stilgar, what's going on?
Oh, Ari, thinking about this satanic anti-religious movement that seems to be just taking hold at the highest levels. We have these no religious exemptions for this DEI, LGBT stuff. No religious exemptions for vaccines. They shut down the churches first when it came to COVID. They put all these extra restrictions around them. So, and in the schools, they're trying to make sure that they have as many alphabet people as possible. So they have groups coming in after school, and they have their allies as part of the thing. Because who wouldn't want to be an ally? How would you not want to be an ally? Are you not? Are you anti something? I mean, it's insidious. They want to get our kids early. They want to get as many as possible. They want to get it just, endemic into the population so that then they will have the numbers to really do what I fear that there is going to happen here as soon as they can make it happen.
You know what I think is actually happening now? I think people are realizing the grift is over. I think they're realizing you don't have to go to schools, you don't have to go to colleges anymore, and that you could get a blue-collar job and make a better living than a lot of these people in colleges, especially the kids who majored in lesbian dance theory or whatever it was. And I'm starting to see a change. And I think one of the reasons the Republican Party is working so well with the unions these days and doing things like the tariffs, even though I'm not so hot on the tariffs, is that they realize, wait a second, we could take over the unions. We've been saying this for a year or two now on the show. If conservatives truly believed everything we say, like you and me, Stilgar, we wouldn't be sending our kids to college at all. My second son, he wants to be a doctor, so I'm kind of screwed there because that's where he wants to go. But I would offer my kids, hey, you don't want to go to college. I'll get you a house, I'll get you an apartment, I'll get you a car, I'll get you whatever you want, but go get a blue-collar job and you'll be better off that way. And in fact, you'll be better in the future because then something that's pretty funny to me is that who do you think these lefties are going to call to fix their plumbing, fix their electrical, fix their homes, fix their cars? What do you think of the plan, Stilgar?
I think it's a good one. I think the trades need everybody we can get. And the average age of a tradesman, as I understand it, is 55 right now. So we definitely need to get more people turning wrenches, plumbing, electrifying, building, digging, Yes, absolutely yes. Get them out there, get them working with their hands, make something tangible at the end of the day. They can look at something and say, hey, I built that. I plumbed that. I electrified that. I did that work. And I can look at it. It's tangible. I can be proud.
Yeah, I had to learn all this stuff on my own. I mean, my father wasn't the handiest guy. He's a lawyer. He wasn't very handy, so I would fix everything around the house. I remember when I was gone for my gap year, first thing he says to me is, oh, I'm so glad you're back. There's so many things around here that need fixing. I learned how to do all this stuff on my own house. I learned how to do all this stuff on my father's house. And you know what? I would have benefited from actually going and learning that stuff professionally, doing an apprentice program, because when I was in the contracting world, I had to learn all that stuff from the beginning. I didn't even know what a stud finder was. I thought it was something that goes, here he is. What's got two thumbs right here? That's your stud finder right here. Stilgar, appreciate the call. Appreciate you being part of the show. You want to be part of the show, give us a call or text at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. When we come back, my friends, let's find out what's going on with the Trump administration. They say that Steve Witkoff is the best negotiator of all time, but I'm not really seeing the fruits of it, and now I have some concerns. We'll discuss them when we come back, but first, Todd Herman's Daily Thoughtcast, right now on The Ari Hoffman Show. Welcome back to the Ari Hoffman Show. Remember, coming up at 5:45 is your chance to win fantabulous prizes, including a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card and tickets to the Puyallup RV Fair. Yet another reason. Always keep your radio tuned to 570 KVI left on your dial, always right on the issues. You can also stream us at KVI.com, download the KVI app, and, of course, subscribe to us on whatever your preferred podcast platform is. Big announcements from RFK Jr. today. He is coming after your cereal, coming after your condiments, coming after your Twinkies, coming after everything by saying they're banning these dyes in food, which are probably pretty bad for you. Now, a lot of people have been posting the differences between what the ingredients are in the same food in the UK versus here, in other parts of the world and here, and there's a lot of junk in our food. There really, really is. Now, they're trying to find out why Americans are so obese. I can answer that question for you without any studies whatsoever, because I know why I'm getting obese. You ready? I don't go outside anymore. I used to ride my bike 16 miles a day. I used to be very active. I am not active anymore, and I eat a lot of junk. That is why. How many kids go outside now as their given choice? We know that enrollment is down for sports even. These kids would rather sit home on their Xbox. That's definitely going to be a huge component of it. At the same time, if they're going to be at home snacking on garbage, might as well be healthier garbage. I remember the meanest prank I ever played on the kids in the youth group. This was the meanest thing. So I always gave them donuts. Krispy Kreme donuts, that was my thing. Ari Hoffman's here. Here come the Krispy Kreme donuts. One time, I replaced the donuts with vegetable spreads. I put vegetables in the boxes and dips. I almost had a riot on my hands. These kids are freaked out. Almost had a complete riot on my hands. I would never do that prank again because my life was in danger. But the FDA commissioner came out today with some announcements about what they're changing over there for the Food and Drug Administration.
The F in FDA stands for food. Now, there's no one ingredient that accounts for the child chronic disease epidemic. And let's be honest, taking petroleum-based food dyes out of the food supply is not a silver bullet that will instantly make America's children healthy. But it is one important step. This administration is not interested in continuing down the path of doing the same old things as we watch our nation's children get sicker. We need fresh, new approaches. Cancer and diabetes in young people is going up at an alarming rate, and nobody seems to know why. We have to turn our attention to underlying causes, such as chemicals and toxins that children are exposed to, not just more insulin and chemotherapy. And let's not forget that the best way to lower drug prices is to stop taking drugs we don't need.
So these things are petroleum-based? Petroleum-based food dyes? Why are we putting that into our body? Does the Twinkie need to be yellow? Does a Twizzler need to be red? If it tastes the same, I don't really care. Yeah, well, says the guy who hates Crystal Pepsi. That does not taste the same. That does not taste the same at all. But he makes some good arguments. What are we putting in our food? You know, it's going to be funny when the Democrats come back into power, and we're going to put petroleum-based dyes back in your food. Can you imagine that? He wasn't done. He also said this.
Today, the FDA is taking the following steps. Number one, establishing a national standard and timeline for the food industry to transition from petroleum-based food dyes to natural alternatives. Number two, initiating a process to revoke authorization of synthetic food colorings, including those not in production, namely citrus red number 2 and orange B, within the coming weeks. Number three, taking steps to eliminate the remaining 6 synthetic dyes on the market from the U.S. food supply, specifically red dye number 40, yellow dye number 5, yellow dye number 6, blue dye number 1, blue dye number 2, and green dye number 3 by the end of next year. We are also requesting food companies to remove red dye number 3 sooner than the 2027-2028 deadline previously announced. These steps that we are taking means that the FDA is effectively removing all petroleum-based food dyes from the U.S. food supply. For companies that are currently using petroleum-based red dye, try watermelon juice. Or beet juice. For companies currently combining...
Hang on a second. Is this going to change how my Twizzlers taste? I'm kind of wondering what... They had me until the end. They had me until the end. Maybe don't give suggestions. Maybe leave that up to the professionals. Because Mike and I both just kind of went, wait, what? Maybe not. Maybe not.
Well, you know what both beet juice and watermelon juice have in common? They taste like the thing that they are.
Yes.
So do you really want your Twizzlers to taste like beets? Now, granted, they probably already do. Gross. But no, like, and really, watermelon juice is so delicate that it doesn't really have any coloring properties anyway, and it's just going to make it taste like watermelon. Now, I like watermelon as much as the next person, but these are not viable alternatives.
Wait, I know how to fix this, Mike.
Yeah?
So you ever put vodka in watermelon?
No.
You never do that?
No.
Oh, it's an awesome party thing.
I drink vodka out of a glass like a normal person.
It's a fun thing to do. You could actually do it, but I say you take the vodka watermelon juice and put that in and let the kids have a little more fun, right?
Ari, can you see me over here for a second? Let's just go over here. Vodka is still clear, buddy.
Oh, that's right. No, I just meant take the watermelon juice.
It just makes it more thin. Sorry.
But they had me up until that part. They really did. I'm like, yeah, this makes a lot of sense. All right, don't give me suggestions. Leave that to the professionals. They'll find something else horrible to put in the kids' bodies or whatever it is. Yeah.
But it underscores, though, that they don't have this quite figured out.
No.
It's like we have a destination, but not a plan.
Exactly.
And I don't know, man. That kind of starts to lose me a little bit.
Right. And actually, this is something that actually led to my next point perfectly, Mike. You may not see the results of this for years. Literally for years. You may not know how this ends. And you know what? Here's the thing. We may find out years from now they were right. RFK Jr. wasn't a raving crazy, whatever it was. I actually like what he's doing. I don't have a problem with it. I acknowledge what I eat is garbage. I like my garbage, though.
Well, and American food in particular is particularly not great. Look at us compared to citizens of other countries.
Yeah.
Now, granted, I mean, look at me for crying in the rain. It's like, I like my garbage as well, and I know that I'm eating garbage. But by the same token, though, I don't know, maybe if we had less garbage on the menu. I mean, there's not to go on a whole damn rant here, but like you go to like the fast food restaurant. What is the cheapest stuff? The stuff that's the worst for you.
Exactly.
It always is.
You saw that graphic I was showing Mr. KVI today with the French fries at McDonald's.
Yeah, exactly.
What they have in the UK versus what we have. Ours is like 3 paragraphs long. Theirs is one short little paragraph with some very odd ingredients that we had never heard of before, but sure. Yeah, they had me until they lost me. So we're not going to know the results of this until we see the results of this. Lots more to discuss as the show continues. Representative Jim Walsh, chair of the Washington State GOP, is going to come by and analyze the effects these taxes are going to have on all of us that the Democrats are passing like they're going out of style. We'll give you all details when we come back. You're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. Friends, last night while you were sleeping, the Washington State Democrats in the House of Representatives of the Washington legislature decided to hit not just you, but everybody you know and every business you shop at with every kind of tax you can possibly imagine. They are not weighing any meaningful cuts, if any at all. And instead, what they are going to do is tax you into oblivion and chase away as many businesses as possible with as many taxes as possible. Joining us now to discuss on the KVI studio line how bad this actually is Chair of the Washington State GOP, Representative Jim Walsh. How are you, sir?
All right, Ari. I'm recovering slightly from a late night. We finished around 2:30, 3 o'clock in the morning, and it was bad. It was real bad. After midnight, so earlier today, Tuesday, the Speaker and her supporters passed off the House floor 3 really bad tax hike bills. And really, the reason they need to raise taxes, Ari, it's not even they won't cut budgets. They don't have to. It's they are committed to growing spending aggressively in this current budget cycle and the one after this to the tune of some $15 or $18 billion. So they've got to go find that much new money. That's why they're calling it a deficit. But what it really is it's projected increases in spending that they want to fund with more tax dollars.
So they're going to chase away all the businesses. They're going to price people out of their homes. Is it they just want a whole subservient population, which is just reliant on them for everything, and that way they never have to have elections again because everybody will vote for them because they're reliant on them for everything?
Well, I mean, for some of them, yes, that's what it is. For others, they've come of age politically and spent their whole political elected careers in an environment where the state's economy was just so strong they couldn't screw it up. And it's not that the state's economy is getting any weaker. It's just tapping out at the amount of screw-ups it can cover with a growing economic base. But they just don't know. They just think the answer is raise taxes, you'll always get more money. And they're wrong. These 3 taxes that they passed off the floor of the House last night, one was House Bill 2049, which is a backdoor property tax increase that allows them and the governor, Mr. Ferguson, to have a talking point that they're not supporting a property tax increase while effectively raising your property taxes. Very sneaky stuff. Another bill was 2081, House Bill 2081. That's an increase across the board on all businesses through the business and occupation tax, the B&O tax. Just an awful, awful way to raise money for the state government because it's a top-line tax. It's a tax on gross receipts, not on income or profit. A dumb tax increase. And the third was House Bill 2077, a tax directed at one company, Tesla Motors, and absolutely running against all their green sanctimony and sanctimonious support of electric vehicles. It is attacking Teslas. It is completely political and aimed at Elon Musk, frankly.
So let's work backwards. So they have this tax on Tesla, which doesn't seem to apply to other EVs, but it might. We're kind of unsure, but it's definitely aimed at Tesla. So most of the people who drive Teslas are not people on the right. So they're basically taxing the people they sold a bill of goods that they were doing this for climate change, who bought the Teslas, who are Democrats, as if they didn't have enough to worry about by getting keyed or vandalized by a whole bunch of leftists?
That's exactly right. And it shows that the EV, green energy, green economy, mumbo-jumbo was never about saving the environment. It's always been about money. This is a money grab targeted at Teslas and Tesla drivers.
Crazy. All right. So then going from there, the business taxes. Didn't the Washington State legislature get letters from Microsoft, Amazon, Boeing saying, if you do this, we're going to have major problems, which is a not so subtle way of saying we're going to move. And Amazon has done it before. They literally bailed on Seattle. When they got hit with that tax by Seattle, went to Bellevue. There's nothing keeping these companies here. They could all move and save a lot of money.
That is correct. And it is. I'd like to say it's a game of chicken with some of their Democrat-leaning corporate supporters, but I don't think it's a game of chicken. I think the companies are serious. If they push this B&O tax increase through, you're going to see these tank companies leaving the state. They've said it, and it's like the left legislators don't believe it, or they're calling their bluff or something, but I don't think those companies are bluffing. I think they're serious.
Well, we know they're serious after what Amazon did, and look at Boeing. Boeing isn't starting new production lines here. They're using what we have, but anytime they have a new line, they start it somewhere else. Their corporate offices are already out of here. These companies are very serious. I think the only ones that might be stuck here are the Seattle Mariners, and, given what happened with the Sonics, I don't think that's for sure, and they signed that letter too.
Yeah, Oklahoma City may want a baseball team as well as a basketball team.
Well, to be fair for a second, Portland's actually looking. They're building a stadium in Portland.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. God help us, Ari, if Oregon's tax system is better than ours, we've really screwed up then. The thing is, Ari, this is so ironic. They're defending this increase in the B&O tax rate, across the board increase on all businesses, as, it's just a temporary thing. It'll sunset in a few years. That's what they said 90 years ago when they started the B&O tax altogether in this state. It's temporary. It's not going to be permanent.
Okay.
It is the worst kind of tax policy, Ari. It's literally killing the geese that lay the golden eggs here in Washington State, and it's just awful.
It absolutely is. The last one is this property tax business. Now, myself and many others saw the article in the Washington State Standard yesterday, saw, the Democrats aren't doing the property tax. Looks like the Washington State Standard got snookered, or whether they wanted to or not, by the Democrats and fell for this also. Explain this back door. Is this just so they can claim, it's about the kids because the money's just going to schools? It's still property tax increases.
Yeah, that's exactly what it is. It's sleight of hand. It's three-card Monty. It's bad faith legislation. They are increasing property taxes. They're just doing it by a slightly different mechanism, but they're increasing property taxes. And I think this is the inflection point, Ari. I think people are fed up with property taxes in this state, and I think increasing property taxes on people who are already struggling in Washington is just cruel. And I think it's going to be a bridge too far for some of these left-wing legislators here in Olympia.
Well, also when they talk about housing affordability and then they jack up the taxes this bad because these businesses aren't going to eat it, they're either going to move, which means firing people, or they're going to raise prices, which means things cost more. In the last few minutes we have with GOP Chair and Representative Jim Walsh, so what can be done? Are we hanging our hat just hoping Bob Ferguson does the right thing? Or is this we should melt the phone lines and yell at them to complain?
I think you melt the phone lines to the governor and you tell him to veto House Bill 2049, veto House Bill 2081, and veto House Bill 2077. That's what we tell him. There are other tax increases in the pipeline, too, but those three are egregious. They are just affronts to regular working people in this state. And Ari, we fought late into the night, into the early morning this morning, but the majority is determined to raise the cost of living through taxes in this state, and it's the wrong play at the wrong time.
So if you want to call the governor's office, the number is 360-902-4111. That's 360-902-4111. Remember, the people who are answering the phones work for Bob Ferguson. They are not Bob Ferguson. So be nice to them. But say no to the property tax increases, say no to the business tax increases, and say no to the taxes on Tesla, which is beyond ridiculous. GOP Chair and Representative Jim Walsh, thank you so much for being with us today. Really do appreciate it.
Always great to talk to you, Ari. Have a great one.
You too. We got a whole lot more to discuss, including good news. Put a smile on your face. Heading into the end of the day, you're listening to the Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI. It is time to feel good as we wrap up another amazing episode of the Ari Hoffman Show right here on Talk Radio 570 KVI. And before we get to our good news giveaway, here's some good news headlines for you. First one's a local one. We Heart Seattle posted this. They posted a time lapse of them cleaning up a trail. Happy Earth Day. We cleaned up this abandoned camp in the North Kinnear Park hiking trail today, managed by Seattle Parks. So hang on a second. Why isn't the city cleaning this stuff up? They had a call in. I think this was a contract done for the mayor of Seattle. So wait a second. You have all of Homeless Inc., and they're hiring We Heart Seattle to come in and do this. Look, good on Andrea. And Andrea's good. We have her on the show all the time, friend of the show. But Andrea's crew is getting the work done that Homeless Inc. doesn't. So why do we have Homeless Inc.? And anybody who tells me it's a team effort, I never see anybody from any other organization out there, ever. And they got rid of the navigation team. So good on We Heart Seattle. You want to do something for Earth Day? Go reach out to Andrea Suarez and see where their next litter pick is going to be, and go help them out. Go to weheartseattle.org, I think it is. Go check out their website. Go help them out. They deserve it. It's a good thing to do. Also, I saw this for Earth Day. Glenn Powell, best known for his role in Top Gun Maverick and Anyone But You. By the way, Anyone But You was wretched, and I like rom-coms. It was terrible, and it had everything going for it. Dude that I like from Top Gun.
Had two great things going for it, still didn't save it.
Exactly. You beat me to it, Mike. But anyway, apparently he is...
Phrasing, by the way.
He is now selling a line of sauces that are very organic and healthy. Launched them on Earth Day on Martha Stewart's show. Hey, if those suckers are kosher, I will give them a day in court. I will. Probably a fortune. I probably can't afford them, but whatever. That kind of garbage is geared towards me. My favorite Lagavulin is Ron Swanson's Lagavulin. I love that stuff. It's amazing. It's very good. Anyway, moving on. Your chance to win fantabulous prizes. Today, we are giving away, if I can find the right paper here, too many papers today. Today, we are giving away a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card. Daniel's Broiler has been a Seattle favorite since 1980. Features a USDA prime steak and other specialties, including chicken and fresh seafood, as well as a selection of high-end spirits, wine, and cocktails. Daniel's Broiler is open now in Bellevue, downtown Seattle, Leschi, and South Lake Union with dine-in, takeout, and delivery. Check out danielsbroiler.com to reserve a table, place your takeout, delivery order, and more. We're also giving away a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement by Brian Evans, of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and a bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement. Learn how to design your retirement to support your quality of life for 30-plus years from Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, a local company working to help you grow deep financial roots so that future financial storms don't blow your life savings away. Visit MadronaFinancial.com for more information and discover how you can create a rooted wealth plan today. Last but certainly not least, we are giving away 4 tickets to the Puyallup RV Show May 1st through 4th. With over a dozen local dealers, 50 manufacturers' brands, and over 400 different models, you can see and compare the most popular RVs on the market today, along with some of the innovative floor plans and custom models. Special show pricing and financing from dealers make this your best opportunity to shop and compare. Get your tickets today at PuyalluPRVShow.com. That's PuyalluPRVShow.com. All you have to do in order to win these fantabulous prizes is be caller number 10 at 206-421-5757. That's 206-421-5757. Caller number 10 will win a $50 Daniel's Broiler gift card, a copy of 7 Steps to a Successful Retirement, a bonus of the Little Red Book of Retirement by Brian Evans of Madrona Financial and CPAs, and 4 tickets to the Puyallup RV Show. That's 206-421-5757, 206-421-5757, looking for caller number 10. And tomorrow, we're actually going to tell you about an event this weekend you get to come see us at on Sunday, April 27th. That's right, the All-In Autism 5K Run and Walk. More details on that tomorrow. Well, my friends, that's going to about wrap it up for us today. But fear not, my friends, we'll be back tomorrow with that event announcement. More exciting guests, more insane stories, and, of course, more giveaways. You've been listening to The Ari Hoffman Show on Talk Radio 570 KVI.